Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Sit Stay Rant, where we are unleashing the real mess behind rescue. This is Amy. You may know me from TikTok, and I'm joined by three of my amazing volunteers who will introduce themselves next.
Tiffany.
Emily.
Gabby.
And I'm so excited. We have a guest today, and it is Josh with K9 Optima. He is a trainer, and I'm so excited to have you.
I'm actually excited to be here. I love talking about rescue and not so much about the dog training industry. So the second you DM me, I was like, yes.
I think it's great. Well, I have a couple of questions for you, but let me start by asking where you're located and how long you've been a trainer.
Man, the K9 Optima is approaching 5 years. We're located in the Bay Area. So I'm about 30 miles north of San Francisco. Yeah.
Nice. And what did you do before that, or have you always dealt with dogs?
So I was a corporate investigator for 17 years. So I
Oh, that's my
packaged.
dream job. I want to be
Yeah.
an investigator.
Yeah. So I packaged cases for organized crime for 17 years.
What?
Wow.
That's so cool. But it
Wow.
was always your dream to work with dogs?
So I learned a long time ago when I was in the Marine Corps, wonderful woman that had a company called Aloha Dog Training, was training dogs on base. She was doing some protection work with a pit bull and an officer on a pickup truck. And I asked her about it. She said, come out, clean my kennels, and I'll think about teaching you. So I drove out to Waimanalo, Hawaii, where I was stationed in the Marine Corps. And every weekend I cleaned her kennels until she taught me. Got out of the Marine Corps, trained dogs for about a year and a half, and then a couple of people foot the dog training bill. I missed rent, and I ran in to get another job.
Wow. You know, one thing that really surprised me about being on TikTok and following you and a couple of people that you have talked about, there's drama in the training world as well as in the rescue world. Like that totally blew me away when I got into rescue. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? We're like going up against each other? I didn't know this was a thing." But it is like you got to deal with that too.
Your first realization is there's drama. The second realization, is it me? Am I the drama?
Oh,
Do I
100%.
want to be the drama?
Right. No, it's crazy. I'm sorry you have to deal with that too. We can relate. We can
Yeah.
Yes.
definitely relate. So you did a video today actually that really resonated with me, and you were talking about rescues, and I agreed with everything that you said, and I wanted to just expand on that a bit. You said something like, having a good heart is not enough. And you have to be able to have the support and the fosters and the money, the resources. It's not enough to just want to help dogs. And we've talked about this before, but I want to get your perspective where rescues sometimes end up doing more harm than good. Do you see that as well?
Especially in the Bay Area. We're in a bit of a crisis with a lot of shelters that have been at capacity for quite some time since the great return after the pandemic.
Mhm.
And I've had the luxury of working with tons of rescues as a referred trainer, but in that, I gain a lot of friends and I'm able to pop the hood and see what people do. And it's been really interesting to work with 30 plus rescues and see them all for their different superpowers, but also see them all for some things that may not be putting the dogs in the best interest, right? A lot of people attempting to be rescues, a lot of people, a lot of networkers putting rescues in dire straits, with pushing dogs on them.
Yeah,
Um,
we get that a lot.
yeah.
Yep.
A lot of, we've had as I've stayed close to it and a lot of my rescue friends have become like literal family members in over
Mm.
the last 5 years, you also hear about all the stuff that's happening in rescue and the terrible things that are occurring. Like rescues dumping 30 dogs in a boarding facility and the boarding facility going under because they didn't foot the bill, all these different things. So
Wow.
that video, the inspiration of that video came from working with some networkers that were doing just that. They were pulling dogs and putting dogs in rover and with sitters and with boarding facilities. And
With no plan, really.
yeah, even a dog sent to me and no plan, and the dog ended up staying with me and almost being abandoned if it wasn't for my ability to network the dog personally. And
Wow.
looking at that versus who does it well, and just seeing the stark contrast with the people that have been at this for 20, 30 years, where they've got it down to a science and kind of understanding like what makes them amazing. It has little to do with heart. Of course, heart has something to do with it. It's what keeps you going. It's what keeps you from burning out. But the calculation, the organization, the speed, the decision making, the ability to garner resources and fosters and money, like, you're a business owner. You
Yep.
have to be a
We
good,
Yeah.
talk about that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
it is a business and you have to be able to look at it with that critical eye. And we see it all the time.
We do. I mean, and even the customer service piece of it, right? I mean, it is.
That's a huge
Learning to
part
be
of it.
patient with people that we don't like.
Josh, do you see or hear of rescues that will dump dogs at shelters and then not pay the bills?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Really?
We've had a bit of a group that have been local to the Bay Area that have started with one rescue, like tarnished that rescue, attached to another rescue, tarnished that, and then they just kind of spread. And it's the same key individuals where they will pull dogs, and even pull dogs without direct consent from the rescue, direct
Wow.
board members,
Wow.
and
Wow.
stuff them in boarding facilities. And it happens more times than you think. And yes, we did namely have 2 boarding facilities actually go under because they were put in there and the rescue couldn't foot the bill.
It's just crazy and so utterly unfair. Do you think it's like the rush of pulling the dogs, like you get to be the hero and you're gonna, get the dog out of the shelter, but you haven't really thought it through, like what happens next?
I think it's newer people trying it on,
Okay.
Oh. Oh.
they and it's really hard too, because some rescuers, maybe smaller rescuers, they bring on people to help them as employees, as volunteers, as coordinators, as networkers, and they I kind of give them autonomy, and then they will start making decisions unbeknownst to them, and things get out of hand very quickly.
Okay.
Because
We've definitely seen that dynamic where things can get out of hand very quickly and people then get swamped. And then we see a lot of instances of rescuers becoming hoarders
Mm-hmm.
in their own spaces, which just is a nightmare for everybody.
yeah, I had a good friend that I worked with, one of the first rescues that I worked with, tell me candidly that she had 2 employees of hers pull 75 dogs without her knowledge.
My gosh.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
I
don't even
can't
know
even
what would happen.
imagine, right?
What
I
would
mean,
we
Amy
do?
pulled like
Oh my
37,
gosh.
I did do that one time. Yeah,
but you
that's
were
true.
Yeah.
injured.
31 coming tomorrow.
Yeah,
32.
right.
We
Right.
know. We know about them.
That
Yeah.
that isn't that it though? Because you I think that when people try to do rescue and they see the people like yourselves who are at a place where you can pull with an extreme cadence, like pulling 35 dogs and taking these, like this consistent, sort of success rate of pulling dogs and networking them. And so I think people get in over the head because they think it's easy.
Right.
Mm.
They can do
That
it,
makes
but
sense.
it takes a certain skill set that they have not yet accrued in the industry.
And
Well,
just a
I mean,
structure, right? Just a structure in place.
I have found a lot of people, I don't know, Josh, if this is your experience, and I'm not trying to be mean to rescue people. Um, and I think it's a valid comment that, there are a lot of rescue people who are just like, they're not great with people and they're just like really they love the animals, but they don't really want to have to deal with the people side of it, which means the networking and the fundraising and making sure you've got a foster infrastructure and, you know, you these days, this day and age, you got to have social media presence. They don't really want to do all of that, and they're just really focused on the dog and not really on anything else. And that
Mm.
doesn't end up being great a lot of times for the dog. Like a lot of rescue people are kind of weird.
Think that the modern rescue era, where to your point, there's a lot of transparency, right? It's not like it used to be where you've got, a website and some photos and people are Googling potentially wanting to rescue a dog and they find these websites and they see these photos and maybe they interface with the foster and now they have a dog. These days, social media is such an important part of being able to network dogs that I think it more or less pulls the curtain back and you get to see some of the people that are really around in the
Yeah,
Right.
that is true. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
very true for better or worse.
so now, but in that same regard, you have to be better with people now because there's a big spotlight. There's transparency. People
Right.
they want to get a sense of your organization. They want to get a sense for especially not just on the adopters front, but the foster front, and bringing them into your organization and treating them fairly and making sure that they're taken care of throughout that process. So I just think it's a heck of a lot more interfacing than it probably used to be.
That's a good point. I think you're right. I mean, just in the time I've been doing this, maybe 10 years, the rescue's been around for 20. I wasn't there for the first part of it. But I mean, it's changed pretty dramatically. And I think we're lucky because we do have a lot of volunteers who are, good with people and pretty savvy. And we have some younger volunteers who kind of understand how to make all of this work. What's your like the rescues that you see that are doing it right? What kinds of things are you noticing about them? So they're good with people or kind of understand all these other aspects. Are there other things that you're seeing that you think make them actually helpful versus harmful?
I think there's different models that I've seen. I see the lean and mean, the smaller rescues that are nimble, that keep a core group of fosters that are super elevated in tenure because they've been there a long time, good decision making on who they're going to pull, why they're going to pull it, never getting in over their head so that they're not underwater with their rescue
Hmm. Yeah.
Mm.
versus
Mhm.
the larger organizations that have been around that have a huge infrastructure of, namely, I work with Rocket Dog out of the Bay Area, and the rescue owner and operator, Paley, has been at this for 30 years, and she's a pillar in the Bay Area. She's been doing it for so long, and her organization, you're talking not only an army of fosters, but an army of supervisors for each foster. They call them RADs. So you have a direct
Mm.
point of contact that will help you all throughout your fostering to get anything that you need. So there's another touch point so that you're supported. And Paley's even got a sanctuary in East Oakland. And seeing that scale of operation where she's driving down to SoCal and she's pulling 50 dogs a weekend and she's got, snip and clip clinics going on and
That's
just a
awesome.
million
That
things.
is.
So I think that at the core, it really does come down to savvy. And sometimes I think savvy comes from making mistakes and becoming better, right? I think every rescue probably gets in over their head to a certain extent. And the ones that survive are the ones that go, that let's reel it in a little bit.
Right.
Too many dogs. Where to
That's a
go?
great point. I mean, one of my big issues. There's another rescue in Maryland where we are that just hates on us all the time. We don't know them. We've never met them. We've never worked with them. But whatever, they have it. They have it in for us, and they will bring up things from years and years ago that they think we did wrong. They fancy themselves the rescue police, and it's super frustrating, especially because, to your point, we are learning all the time, and there are things that we do differently now, and we're always trying to evolve, and it's frustrating when we don't kind of get credit for that. because I agree with you. It's not about never having made any mistakes. I mean, that's just not realistic. I mean, I always say dogs and people are inherently unpredictable, so we're learning, and even as we're learning and growing, there's always going to be issues. I mean, we can go over proper protocol for things, and people, I mean, I'm sure you can speak to that. People don't always listen. And, so then like people will say, "Oh, you guys get a lot of returns." And it's like, "No, we don't get any more or less than anyone else. I just happen to talk about them." And there's always going to be people who don't listen. So it's unfortunate when we're trying to always be better and learn and grow. And I hate when people will focus on something that they think we did wrong, especially if it was a long time ago. I don't know. It's a frustrating thing, but I think that is a key part of being around for a long time, is learning from our mistakes and figuring out how we can do things better and more effectively. I feel like that's the sign of a good organization, being open to that. And then we're always open to, to criticism and constructive comments and all that.
The risk of mistakes are completely different in rescue than any other industry. Like just recently, newer rescue, an up and coming rescue, they just took it over. It's been around for a minute, but the networkers of a Stanislaus shelter, Katie Rose and a couple of people took this rescue over. And so they're relatively new. It's called California Bully Rescue. And they're moving and grooving. They're pulling dogs. Like they're doing such a good job. And I happened to be in the Antioch shelter, and this dog came in incredibly emaciated. I mean, to the point that it was just a skeleton and you didn't understand how it was standing. It looked like it shouldn't be alive.
Yeah.
And I made the video. So it's on my gigantic platform. Katie sees it. Katie's like, "I'm going to pull the dog, right? Do the right thing. See if we can get this dog medical." They pull the dog, they save the dog, and $60,000 later, 5 trips to emergency to keep this dog alive. Turned out potentially the dog had lymphoma, the dog had all these different problems, and the dog didn't make it.
Mm.
3 months in, the dog didn't make it.
Yeah.
And so that's a mistake, but
Right.
with
Right.
no risk, there's no salvage. If they did not put their neck out to pull this dog that clearly needed medical, God knows how much medical, the dog had no chance. And so sometimes mistakes come down to rescues just trying to do the right thing and knowing that they're in hot water if it doesn't work out the way they want it to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great example. Absolutely.
It is. And it is. I mean, you think about, we do take more risks, right? And we are, the more risks you take, the more likelihood that there will be a risk that doesn't work out. That's what makes it a risk, right? And so, how much, you wonder, even in that situation, I'm sure so much was learned with the situation you're talking about, Josh. And at the same time, when will you have that same exact situation again?
Yeah. That's a hard thing too.
It's
Right.
always
Yeah.
like, and so you learn these lessons that possibly you can take pieces of that you can apply to other situations. But, it's like the balance of risk and knowledge, right? It's tough.
I see it all the time through being a referred trainer for behavior for rescues. I see some of the younger rescue organizations. They get in their head. They have a couple of problematic dogs. Dogs accruing bites while in foster, and I'll work their dogs, board and train, support. Get the dog good, get the dog safe, and I'll see a couple of dogs come through where it was pretty escalated. And then I'll watch that rescue social media, and I'll see they'll go to puppies for a while. They'll rip it
Yeah,
in.
I bet.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
pointy-eared dogs, no giant dogs. Let's take a moment, because they just, obviously there was a lot of funds and also bites accrued with fosters, and so you can get now gun shy. You can look at dogs and factor in, what if, does this dog is this dog going to result in another incident? And so
Yeah, I mean, we always have to think about liability, and I mean, it's that goes back to your earlier point, that it's not, it can't just be about having a big heart. I want to save everybody. Got to really think about what happens next, and do we have a backup plan if things go south? I mean, what is your philosophy in terms of, in general, do you think that there are some dogs that just cannot be worked with? I mean, my feeling is we can't save them all. and some of the, like, super, super difficult cases can really drain all of our resources and time. I mean, how do you feel about that? You're working with difficult dogs all the time.
It most dogs can be saved under the right guidance with the right trainer with a certain amount of time, and unfortunately, the probability of dogs being given that opportunity and go to that place to get that sort of therapy, it's nil, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. It's kind of like they could likely be helped, and then there's the real world, and can you actually provide this place, this training that they need?
Yeah. Last time I was networking out of the Antioch shelter, we had 5 bullies come in. It was a mama and 4 bullies, and they were big XL bullies, beautiful Merle, like somebody was breeding them out. It was a guy that was 5150, got in trouble with the law, threatened some officers, went to jail. He got his dogs taken. They went to the shelter. And as soon as they were off hold, I started networking them. Those dogs came in with the best disposition you could possibly imagine. They were so big and strapping and muscular, and they looked the part, but they were the nicest, sweetest dogs. You would walk by their run, and they were like, "Hey, everybody," just like happy to be
Aw.
here. And so I was pulling them out and I was networking them and training them, and all of them were perfect. They were perfect with dogs. They're perfect with each other. They're relatively young. And then there was one dog named Mister that had some drive. So of all the dogs, when I went to test for prey drive with different toys, he was the one that was like, no, I'm serious about this toy. He had a lot of drive. And so as I'm trying to network them to safety, I'm putting posts out. It's taking some time. As the weeks go by, these happy-go-lucky dogs start spiraling. Even with the best disposition you can imagine coming in, they start to get stressed, and they're high drive dogs. They're starting to get pent up, and they start to slowly circle the drain.
Mm.
One by one, we got them out with the exception of Mister. And so I get the phone call that Mister's spiraling. He nipped one of the volunteers when he was being taken out to the yard. Now he's on bike quarantine. So I go in to check him out, and I couldn't even get him out of the kennel.
Mm.
He was fighting the slip so hard. He would not let go. He was gator rolling the slip. And I had to hit him with water with a hose to get him to release the slip. And so I'm
Mhm.
looking at the shelter director and I'm like, this is bad. So I'm not sure where this dog can go. So
Right.
just so happened to call my sponsor Ziwi and say, hey, you guys got any product? I want to work with some rescues. I want to work with people, and I just need a little bit of I just needed to give them something because they're going to be doing stuff for me. And they're like, yeah, we got you. So they sent me like $15,000 worth of dog food. And so I started using this dog food and giving it to different rescues to take dogs. So they're pulling dogs, you scratch my back, I'll scratch you. So they're pulling dogs. And then here's Mister. And I call one of my trainer friends who has a contract with the city that does training for shelters. I'm like, can you take this dog? And she's like, God, I don't want to. I don't have any room. And I'm like, here's $5,000 worth of dog food. Hook me up and I'll hook you up. And she's like, okay, fine.
Wow.
So she comes in, and we don't even know how we're going to get him out of the freaking kennel because he's that kind of crazy. They got him on trazodone. He's super psychopath. And so they catch pull him. And I happen to, instead of him trying to redirect, I happen to throw a plushie on the ground. And instead of redirecting, he just put the plushie in his mouth and started shaking it. And the second we got him out of the back door, he turned into that happy-go-lucky dog that I met.
Wow.
Oh.
It's like, hey guys, sorry about all that.
Right.
And he was up against
Yeah.
euthanasia, you know?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
But that is a prime example of who has the skill sets to take this dog, because the way he was presenting, I'm like, Teresa, you're gonna have a problem with this dog. This dog's gonna be gnarly. Like, we gotta
Right.
get ready,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But if I didn't have that lifeline of a trainer that has the ability to take a dog like that and woo saw that dog and bring that dog back from the brink, he would have no shot. And that is
Yeah.
the problem with all of the dogs that are presenting in these stressed out conditions, is like, where are you going to go? Who has the skill set to help you?
Yeah, we talk about that a lot, and obviously we're in the shelters a lot, and I mean, I don't know many dogs that are gonna show their best selves in that situation. Have you ever had a dog, Josh, that you were, like, genuinely afraid of?
I'm definitely afraid of all bull terriers.
Mm.
Yeah?
I,
They're beautiful, but oof.
there's a,
Interesting.
I currently am breaking the bull terrier curse, but every bull terrier tried to attack me in session.
Oh
How
my goodness.
funny. The target
Wow.
dog?
The target dog.
And I think it comes to the fact that I can't read them to save my life. I might as well be working a great white shark. I have no read on the dog at
Oh,
all.
that's so
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. So
Josh, do you think that's because it's like are they deep into themselves? Like like is their personality like below the surface or what why? Is that the breed or
your ability to read breeds comes from working a ton of them, you know?
Mhm.
So like I
Mhm.
work a ton of German Shepherds and Malinois and Golden Retrievers. You work all these breeds, especially being in behavior. You work a lot of high drive dogs because the high drive dogs typically have the behavioral issues. And so in that, you get really good at reading each breed and understanding what they're thinking and kind of staying ahead of them. But when I see a bull terrier, I see nothing. I can't. It literally might be just might as well be a great white shark staring at me. I don't know what they're thinking. I can't stay ahead of them. And because
Yeah.
of that, a lot of them will take a crack at me in session because I'm not ahead of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So interesting. And then do
So
you
interesting.
see like in Goldens or Shepherds or whatever, do you see that they tend to have commonalities in terms of their language, so to speak?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They
Yeah.
all come. If you see enough of the same breed, you start to gather like a qualitative database on like what's typically going on with these breeds. Why do they have problems? And a lot of it does come down to genetics, and a lot of it most certainly comes down to like what they were bred to do, what traits they have, right? So like
Yeah.
with my partnership with NorCal Golden Retriever Rescue, I mainly get golden retrievers that have resource guarding issues and possession issues, right? Because
Mm.
the breed was bred to retrieve. And so if you don't finish off the give it up, then their genetics will tell them to grab it and possess it and resource guard, right? Same thing for bull breeds with predatory drift and German shepherds with protective instincts. Like most often behavioral issues just come down to the phylogenetic information and the dog not knowing where to put these traits.
Hmm.
Mhm. So
That
interesting.
makes so much sense. We've talked about that a lot where people will get a dog and then be annoyed or frustrated by the very traits that that dog is known for. And I've told the story of a family that had a German short-haired pointer puppy that they got from a breeder. It was a super expensive dog, and it was a single mom, 2 young kids. She works outside the home. They have a small house, no yard, and the dog was crated all day, and this dog was bouncing off the walls, and it was just the totally the wrong match for this family. I mean, it ended up I convinced her to rehome, and the dog is doing great, and the dog now lives on a lot of land and gets a lot of exercise. But she picked that dog because it was cute. That was really her criteria, and hadn't really researched what she was getting herself into. So we find that a lot. And then of course as a rescue, we're left kind of picking up the tab and trying to manage dogs that haven't necessarily done anything wrong. They're just behaving the way that they were meant to behave.
Right.
Is there a certain breed, Josh, that you think is particularly challenging? Not necessarily for you as a trainer, but for the average person?
Anything with lots of energy, and that energy manifests differently breed to breed, right? If I've got a pit bull or a bull breed, they might, have a lot of energy and, want to chase squirrels and, become easily stimulated or even easily overstimulated, right? If I've got a German Shepherd, they have a lot of energy and they're going to put that, into alert barking and, being a menace and you're at your window or on the leash. Each of these breeds, because they are higher purpose, that means that they're bred to kind of do something and they're bred to respond to stimuli. And so they will empty their gas tank into this, into the environment in a place where they feel like it's in line with what they're meant to do. And so a lot of owners, the bigger problem is obviously to your point, not understanding what this dog is actually here to do, but then also finding ways to give the dog the appropriate outlet so that it's a fair trade. You know,
Yeah.
you can't just
Yeah.
diminish the behaviors that you don't like without creating behaviors that can be something of an outlet for that animal.
Do you find any real difference in working with rescue dogs versus breeder dogs? Like, dogs that have been rescued versus dogs that have been purchased? Do
I
you
was gonna
find any difference from a training perspective?
Can
Yeah.
you say that, Gabby?
I think I see the worst of the worst, and I wouldn't even be a good person to ask. I think if we're talking about stable genetics and the breeders that have had the line forever and it's just good temperament and good characteristics, I think probably per capita, they're probably not going to behavior mod trainers comparatively to the ones that might have a bad mixture, or the ones that had a terrible start and just an unstable beginning in a shelter. I can always see good genetics in session. I can always see stability and say, no, this dog, even coming down to something very simple like the dog being able to think when things are escalated or when things are stimulated. That's typically a symptom of like good chemistry. Mom and dad had a good head on their shoulders. The grandparents had a good head on their shoulders. And so most commonly I'll make comments on stable genetics, but unfortunately in my line of work, you just don't see it very often. It's a one-off.
Yeah. What's your general thought on doodles?
Love
You
I
love them?
I love doodles. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm the
All
wrong
right, we got to
person.
wrap it up. We're done.
I'm the wrong person to ask. So, like,
So
your problems are not my problems. So, I have 3 dogs here right now in the board and trade. Right. I have a Burmese Mountain Dog Great Pyrenees like mix that's super obnoxious and in every dog's face and barking up a storm and chewing things up. I have a golden retriever that was surrendered for resource guarding that put a hole in a dog's face and bit the owner during a resource guarding incident. And then I have a little doodle. And that little doodle is the sweetest little thing, and he's causing no problem. And he's laying on my lap, and it's a mini doodle, so he's very light. Even though he's like on top of me, you can barely feel him. While my Malinois' hot breath is in my face, and my 70-pound golden retriever is just laying all over me. It's the doodle. It's the best thing going on in my house right now. Per capita, I'll take it. Like if any dog that's gonna come through that fence, an Australian Shepherd that wants to take my head off, or a German Shepherd that wants to charge me, or a bull breed that wants to redirect on me because it wants to murder my helper dog, and then the doodle marches in and it's just got a lot of energy and super exuberant. Like, give me the doodle every day. Take
it's
it.
got
Do
like
you,
little
do you-
pencil box and like notebook. It's like ready to learn.
right? Yeah.
My
Do
dog
you
is
see more
goofy.
doodles
Yeah.
needing you?
I see. Well, my opinion is skewed because of my partnerships with various rescues that receive these niche breeds. And so my interfacing with doodles came from working with rescues that have golden retrievers and have a lot of doodles.
Mhm.
And, I can say that I think that breeders obviously are pumping out. I think there was a period where everybody became a backyard breeder during the pandemic, and a lot of dogs were pushed out that shouldn't have been pushed out. It was a mad cash grab. And I think a lot of bad genetics across the board with every niche breed that you could imagine got pushed out into society. And I think we're still reeling from that with the dogs that have now matured. But per capita, I think that the quality of breeding lowered tremendously during that era.
Mhm.
That's a really good point. I mean, we've seen more owner surrenders in recent, couple of years, and I wonder if that is part of that, kind of like the fallout from the pandemic, and a lot of people got dogs during that time, and maybe there were more of the backyard breeders and that kind of thing, because we've definitely seen a lot more owner surrenders, which are always a challenge. We want to help as much as we can, and it's hard when we are, we kind of get asked to take these dogs that are now sort of messed up.
There's the backyard breeders, and then I think there's this gray area of breeders where they presume to be ethical. There's a website, there's some documentation of the testing that they do, but I think a lot of them, especially on the, more working breed side, I think their integrity goes out the window when someone from San Francisco calls that field retriever in Utah, and that line is meant for hunting, and that up and up breeder that has all the accolades and all the AKC stamps and all the awards sells that field retriever to a couple that live in a 700 square foot apartment in San Francisco. Like,
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
integrity comes down to those conversations and qualifying whether or not this dog is going to the right home. I think that if breeders did the same legwork that rescues did when selecting the appropriate home, we wouldn't be in the
Mm,
situation that we're in.
I mean, I agree with you. It goes back
yeah.
to this German short-haired pointer puppy. Like, how did this family end up being able to have that dog? I mean, obviously, I know in this particular case, it was probably just about the money. But had they done the due diligence that we would do as a rescue, we would not have approved that. We certainly would have approved them to adopt a dog, but it would not have been that particular one.
Money has a lot to do with it, as far as if the breeder is really successful, the top X percent in their relative breeding, industry, and they're not hurting for money. They can pick and choose because that litter is already accounted for, and that litter isn't going to pay their mortgage and feed their
Right.
children. I think
Uh-huh.
integrity
Yeah.
slips too when they have to move the puppies because that's how they exist, and that's where you can lose the quality and selection because this is how you pay your mortgage. Whereas maybe some of the more uber successful, they can pick and choose and be a little bit more selective because they're at an echelon where finances aren't playing into that conversation.
Yeah. See so many TikTok lives of Frenchie breeders on TikTok Live, like just trying to sell them because they don't care who buys them.
And I had a doodle actually breeder reach out to me a couple years ago. I think that, with different kinds of breeders, not the backyard breeders, but the regular breeder, will like take dogs back as well. And I think that plays a role in it. I had a backyard breeder reach out to me because somebody had bought the dog and was like, a week in and realized this was not going to work for them. And they were like, I've got your $4,000. You're on your own. And they had reached out to me to buy the dog so that the person could have their money back and take it into a rescue situation. You're like, so it is about just the money in a lot of situations.
Yeah, and to your point on the TikTok, peddling of puppies,
Mhm.
there's also this whole thing that goes on where kennels get popular on social media.
Mhm.
They have 100,000 followers on Instagram and they're putting out puppies. And you would assume that because they're social media famous that they're on the up and up. But I've had so many different scenarios where, someone tries to give the puppy back to the breeder because the dog has behavioral issues and they tell them no with their $100,000 on Instagram. And then I call them with my 500,000 followers and say, are you sure? And they like, I'll make it work, because they don't want the publicity of the win,
Right.
right? So
Right.
social media unfortunately has its ugly hand in the fire too.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. So are you getting how does it work with you and rescues? Like they will call you and say, "Hey, we've got this dog in foster care that's out of control. We need to do something. Can you like come and assess the dog or maybe take it into your board and train?" Like how are they using your skills and services?
Each rescue uses me a little bit different. So, like for instance, Rocket Dog, I'm on their adoption packages. I'm the 911 if something's going wrong to call me. They actually have a direct line of access if something happened to call a dog trainer in the moment to help.
Wow, that's great.
Mostly my involvement is with in person. They rarely do board and trains. So they're sending
Okay.
the foster's actually coming today for me to do an assessment. So it's very much assessment driven and elevating the fosters on how to help this dog. And that just kind of speaks to how well they run their organization, that a behaviorist can come in with a foster and say, okay, here's what I'm seeing, and then here's what you're going to do. So that technically that foster is going to be the one to help that dog and perform the therapy while they're in transition. Whereas like another, like Lily's Legacy, which is a senior sanctuary, uses me strictly for seminars. I'll go out and do seminars once every 3 months, and then board and trains, like to work their dogs in my board and train process. Whereas some might, use me more for networking. Like I'll help out smaller rescues and put them on the page to give them a little lift and try to get some of their dogs out there. So it's kind of player's choice, and it's always kind of shaped by incidents in the dogs. Like,
Yeah.
crazy bitey dog, get the dog out of the foster, bring them to me, and then I'm working the board and train.
I mean, do you ever have a foster show up with a dog and you feel like, oh, this foster is not going to be able to handle this?
Oh yeah.
And
No,
what do you do? Go back
no,
to the rescue and say, you
get,
got to
get dogs got to
figure
get out
something out?
immediately. If
Yeah.
I see a dog, and it really wouldn't come down to like, you would think it comes down to, oh, they're terrible and they can't, but it typically comes down to the fosters throwing their hands up. You can just
Yeah.
tell they're not committed anymore. They
Yeah.
want out of it.
Yeah.
Or you've already get the sense that they've had conversations with the rescue, like, get this dog out of my house, and the rescue hasn't been able to move the dog.
Right.
That's where it gets
And
really
that's
sketchy.
a challenging thing sometimes for
Yeah.
us in rescue. Like, if someone wants the dog moved, it's like, well, hang on, we don't have a facility. Some rescues do, but we are foster based, so we need to regroup. I mean, do you find that most rescues that you're working with are using boarding facilities to some degree?
I thought, I don't know. I mean, I think that stuff is on the hush hush. I
Mm,
don't think they would publicize that as readily to me
okay.
with my social
Yeah.
media presence. I think a lot of rescues are probably guarded on those types of things, because we know that that's a no-no. We know that that's more or less the scarlet letter because of all the horrendous things that happen where rescues will overutilize boarding facilities and stack dogs in there, versus the here and there we need a dog to be in a transition point for like 2 weeks until we can find another foster.
Right.
I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, I was maybe I'm super naive, but I was stunned. We have a guy who is a board and train, and we will do the ladder like every so often. We need him for a week or two, but it's like we never would have more than like almost never have more than one dog in his care, and our goal obviously is to have none. But
Right.
occasionally we need him, and he has been super helpful. But I remember going over to his place one time, and he said, you can use me more than you do. And he mentioned some other rescues, and he's like, oh yeah, they have like 15 dogs here. And I had no idea. I had no idea that that was a thing. And he's like, oh yeah, they're just kind of here indefinitely. And that
Well,
that was news to me.
one of our fosters, she got dogs dumped on her from another rescue. They never came back.
Oh, that's
She's got like
right.
Yeah.
7 of them, and she's had them for a couple years. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tell that story, Tiff, to Josh. It was like how many dogs?
It's like I think she has 7 of them still. So they came
And what happened? A rescue just dumped them?
they said, "We just need you temporarily, and, we'll support you, we'll supply everything, all the bedding, all the food, like, we just need your facility." And, of course, she was like, "I'll do it, and for free." Like, that's no
Wow.
problem. So, she's had them maybe 3 years now. Rescue ghosted her, doesn't pay for anything, doesn't give her, like, no support. So, she started coming to some of our local events to showcase the dogs because she doesn't have it. She's not a rescue. She doesn't have a network.
Oh, that is I just can't imagine doing that.
Completely just
Maybe
ghost.
I'm super naive, but I cannot imagine doing that
And a lot of them
to
have
the
a lot of,
boarding place. Like, it's so shitty.
they're dog aggressive. They have resource guarding. Like, they're not easy dogs. And she's like, I guess I just have to just take care of them until maybe
And
something.
she's not a trainer,
She's not a trainer.
right?
She has
So
a farm that had a boarding, like, kennels,
and she has like cows and chickens.
Oh, got
That's
it.
her jam, is farm animals. So she was like, well, I have these empty kennels, so yeah, bring them over. Nope.
Right.
Then they
Wow.
never came back. And that
Yeah,
happens.
I wonder if that is kind of one of the dirty little secrets, because I was very surprised that rescues that are pretty like well known were stashing fairly large number of dogs. I assume they were paying this guy. We pay this guy, but I just was surprised to hear like, oh, you have 15 dogs from this one rescue.
Right. Oof.
And when the rescues go to the bottom bidder, like oftentimes what I see is rescues, they find the cheapest boarding, cheapest dog trainer they can. They'll usually take on a dog trainer that's new, that doesn't have a website, it just has a phone number, and they'll take the dogs on the cheap, and that typically is not a good environment, especially if these trainers don't have the experience or maybe they don't have the ethics. And so you see dogs being placed with trainers that do the more deplorable things for the lowest dollar.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean, that's really sad to think about too. And yeah, and then you wonder, is the rescue actually being helpful? Like, I mean, our feeling is if we are going to pull the dog, then we're in it for the duration, and we're going to make sure we are providing the best care. And, sometimes a dog will show up and it's shocker, it's heartworm positive, or there's something that we got to deal with that we didn't expect, or there's some issue, and so we deal with it. We feel like if we're going to pull it, we got to do the right thing all the way through.
What do you think the effect has been on the sensationalizing of networking on social media? Like this era of, and truly its own arm of networkers connected to the rescues, meaning people that are, doing the videos and, campaigning to get these dogs off the euthanasia list, and more or less the circulation of shelter dogs now. Do you feel like that might be some of the reason that you pull more, or maybe we pull out of our depth, or we pull a dog that we ordinarily wouldn't have because of social media's involvement with that?
I think that's a great point, and I do think that that's a big factor. And I think that if you have people, especially people who are skillful in the way that they do their videos and all of that, you get the Sarah McLachlan music in the background, and you feel bad for the dog. And yeah, I do think that
Or
that
when
people will.
100 people tag you, like if you're
Right.
Oh my
known.
God, we get tagged
We get
all.
tagged every day. When I ask people, if you're
Yeah,
tagging me, are you willing to foster? Oh no, I can't. And I'm like, well, then what are we supposed to do? Because if we don't have a plan for a dog, we can't bring the dog there. I can bring certain dogs into my house. Emily, you can take small dogs. Amy, you can take any shut down dog that gets along with other dogs. But where's the dog going to go? And a
yeah,
lot of people tag me. There's a specific foster, and she's awesome. She wants a second dog, but she tags me in all these dogs. And I'm like, look, if you want this dog because you're interested in adopting, you're taking the risk on. If the dog doesn't work out, you're going to have to figure out how to keep the dog until we find a home for the dog. Oh,
Right.
I can't do that. And I'm like, I can't take the dog to my house if it doesn't work out. Like, you
right,
have a
right,
plan for every dog. So, I mean, I
right.
may pick some dogs, but I'll bring them home.
Well,
Yeah,
that's it, right? I mean, I've got one coming to my house right now because we pulled it with a foster to adopt and then she bagged. So it's coming here, and you're like, you have to be able to take the, house the dog somewhere. So
And
it
it's
is
not a
tough
dog
with the tagging.
we would have pulled if it weren't for that person wanting to
Yeah.
adopt. And it's a big dog,
Yeah.
and it's hard to find somebody to take a big dog that you're like, I don't
Right.
know if it likes other dogs or even people.
Yeah. Well, we're going to find out.
We're gonna find out tomorrow.
About to
Well,
find out. Hope it
what
likes chihuahuas. Yes.
what's funny to me is that because I network a lot, I think I probably have more experience networking than I do interfacing with probably even dog training. I mean, I've been networking for 5 years and using the platform for some good and putting dogs on the page. There was a time when I was doing a weekly post for Stanislaus because they had 35 dogs on the euthanasia list every single week. And so every single week I would actually make the videos, put it all together, do the voiceover, put on the Sarah McLachlan music, and try to save these dogs. And so 5 years later, I'm still watching networking on social media, and it's a funny thing.
It
Because
is.
outrage and sadness is what perpetuates the videos to a place where they get saved. And so it starts with people incredibly infuriated that these dogs are going to be put down, and they look sad and they look sickly, and everybody's mad that this is happening. How could you let this happen? And then people tag you. Now you're coming in on this hornet's nest, and you get tagged 6 ways to Sundays. And I don't know, do people get upset because you don't respond to the tags?
Oh my God, all the time. Yeah.
You get a
Do
lot
you
of hate.
feel
Yeah.
do you feel, Josh, that the the Sarah McLachlan type videos, do you think that some people just tune it out? Like it's just there's too many of them. I'm sick of seeing 35 dogs that are going to be euthanized. Like I can't do it anymore. And so I got to look away.
I was just talking to the director of the Antioch shelter, and I was talking to their networking team and their in-house social media team, and I was explaining that. I said that people are they're numb to seeing a dog in a kennel.
Yeah.
That's over.
Yep.
Like it had its time. Like there
Mm-hmm.
was a moment where you could walk down the kennel line and people were like, "Oh my God, that's
Right.
gone." So now you have to show them something else. If they're in a kennel, they don't care. And so I was telling them to get them out in the sunshine, bring them to life, videos, not pictures. And I've seen a lot of success, like Stanislaus, Katie Rose, and a rescue organization named Resilient Dog. They embed in Stanislaus. So it's like volunteers, and it's free volunteers for the shelter. And they do a lot of the networking, and they did something very genius, and they've saved thousands of dogs because of this genius idea. They got them out in the yard, and they bought a bunch of funny costumes.
Yeah,
They put the dogs in cowboy hats.
It works.
And fucking tutus. And
Yep.
the fucking, can I cuss on here?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's
We insist.
A fucking tutu saved the dog's life. Are you fucking kidding me?
It's true. It's
Like
true.
that's what saved the dog's life.
Yeah.
You go on
Yeah.
Temu with those outfits.
I've been seeing a couple shelters doing the videos where they'll show a bunch of their pit bulls, pit mixes, and they'll put wigs on them, and they'll say that they're doodles, and it's just it's funny, and I think people appreciate a little bit of just like a lighter approach. I do think that sometimes it just can be too much to see all this kind of despair, and it's like a fine line. You definitely want to pull on the heartstrings. We need that. Sometimes that's what gets people to donate, and that's critical to run an organization. And if you do it too much, I do think sometimes people are like, you know what, I'm out. It's just, I can't look anymore. And then they won't engage. So kind of understanding that, or maybe mixing it up a bit, is, I think, a good thing.
Yeah, people on Facebook groups that I'm in, they complain when people are posting about the euthanasia lists, and they're like, post this in a organized dog group, not a community Facebook group, because they're just sick of seeing all the dogs
They
die.
don't want to see it. Yeah.
I think compassion exhaustion is real. It's like a compassion fatigue, and and that's, people just get so tired from seeing it because it does. So it's like this weird balance. We're trying to invoke emotion to save their lives and be like, these are living beings that need us, and at the same time, can be exhausting, I think, to keep looking at those pictures.
It's also the algorithm too, though.
Right.
I have it. So because I've interacted and I've interfaced all of my social media, all of the algorithms for every single platform that I'm on knows that I want to see shelter dogs, right? The algorithm's like, cool, you interacted with that in the past. Here you go. Here's a bunch of dogs that are going to die.
Yeah.
Every single post. And I flip. I just can't. I can't stay emotionally connected to it all the time because it's thousands of dogs. You can if I doom scroll, I will see 100 dogs inside of 10 minutes. My wife, however, is still connected to it. So now my pulse in fostering dogs, networking dogs, and saving dogs is usually my wife going on my shoulder and going, hey, this dog.
Oh,
Well, is there anything, Josh, before we wrap up, that you wish rescues understood from your perspective? Is there anything that you want us to keep in mind as we continue on this crazy journey?
I think that the power of social media for a lot of rescues is still untapped. I think that due to whether it's, the generation, due to the inability to jump off of the older platforms like Facebook and onto some of the newer ones, there is a complete gap with an audience that is absolutely able and willing to adopt a dog. And so what I tell rescues all the time is that you have to, if you can get better at one thing this year, it should unequivocally be social media, because it's your opportunity to connect and move dogs much faster. It's your opportunity to connect and build and raise raise medical, and be able to, save more dogs. Or if you're underwater with a particular dog, you can bounce back from one post. And so whether it's the, core rescue folks learning how to make videos in a manner that will gain analytics and will, push to larger audiences, or you employ a social media manager that understands it and is committed to doing it, it's super duper important at this day and age, and it's not going to change.
We do have a
Yeah,
TikTok.
that makes a lot of sense. Well, yes, exactly. Well, we are so grateful for your time, Josh, and you're an amazing person, amazing trainer. I learn a lot from your videos, and I personally appreciate all that you do. Oh my gosh, my best friend.
it's like I'm up now.
Yeah.
Thank you for all that you do to help rescues, and especially dogs that are a bit more challenging. That is super important work. And I'm really glad to know you, and I appreciate your time today.
Yeah. If you guys ever need anything, whether it's networking or whatever, I'm totally game. So like I said, I'm really excited to have this conversation. This was really cool. Like, honestly.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we're here
Thank
for you
you.
too. So
Yes.
appreciate your time, and thanks for all that you do.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Josh.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.